The beast's corpse was still steaming when the villagers rushed him, chanting and waving those glowing leaf banners that made everyone look like they were celebrating a cosmic disco party. Rhett Briggs wiped alien mucus off his armor, flicked it to the ground, and tried to look heroic instead of exhausted and slightly hungry. He'd fought raiders, pirates, rogue AIs, but nothing prepared him for a 30-meter swamp serpent with a temper problem and acid spit. Still, he'd won. By luck, instinct, and the universe's eternal love for chaotic humans who refused to die. The aliens crowded closer, all bulbous eyes and shimmering scales, chirping with high-pitched excitement. Rhett forced a smile. He wasn't great with crowds, especially ones that looked like they wanted to lift him up and parade him around like a gladiator trophy. Sure enough, that's exactly what they did. Suddenly he was airborne, carried on a sea of colorful arms while someone shouted something vaguely ceremonial, probably about honor, bravery, or offering sacrifices to a god shaped like a teapot. He landed in the center of the village on a raised stone platform, dizzy but intact. An elder waddled up, her robes glowing like they'd been dipped in electricity. She raised a staff and declared something in her language before switching to clumsy common speech. "Human warrior! You have defeated the devourer. Tradition decree, you choose any wife." Rhett blinked. "Excuse me?" The entire crowd cheered like this was the best part of the day. A dozen women stepped forward. And they were, surprisingly stunning. Sleek, shimmering, glowing skin, tall, elegant bodies. Their features were alien but undeniably attractive, like supermodels from a different dimension. Rhett stared, unsure how to react. He was sweaty, tired, and smelled like acid-burnt leather. No way was he about to pick the hottest woman in the room like some arrogant conqueror. His mother raised him better than that. He cleared his throat, scanning the line until his gaze landed on someone at the very end. A squat, rounded alien woman stood there, looking like a worried potato with arms. Her skin was bumpy, her eyes big and kind, her mouth too small for her face. She looked like she'd been sculpted by a child trying their best with clay but giving up halfway. Everyone else avoided looking at her, probably because she had never been chosen before. Rhett felt that familiar human guilt rise. Nope. He wasn't picking based on looks. If anything, he'd pick the one who seemed like she needed the win. He pointed directly at her. The cheering instantly died. Whispering tore through the crowd like a shockwave. The stunning women blinked in disbelief. The elder stared as if she'd just seen someone choose a trash can over a treasure. The potato woman gasped and placed a hand over her chest. "Me? You want me?" Rhett nodded, trying to sound confident. "Yes. Absolutely." The crowd exploded with noise again, this time half confused, half delighted, like watching someone adopt a three-legged puppy in a world full of racehorses. The woman waddled forward, grabbed his wrist with surprising strength, and pressed her forehead to his arm in a gesture that was probably sacred. "I am Grulla," she said softly. "You chose me. So, you get the whole family package." Rhett froze. "The what now?" She giggled, and the crowd giggled with her as if they all understood some secret joke he didn't. He tried to ask, but the elder smacked the ground with her staff. "Human! You chosen! Marriage begins soon! Prepare!" Grulla tugged him away excitedly, humming like a cheerful washing machine. Rhett followed, confused, tired, and increasingly uneasy. Family package could mean anything. Maybe her relatives moved in. Maybe he had to give gifts. Maybe she had 12 siblings who'd claim him as a brother. He hoped it wasn't some ritual involving wrestling or slime baths. They walked past glowing trees and mossy huts, her pace surprisingly fast for someone shaped like a root vegetable. Every villager gave Rhett a thumbs up, or the alien equivalent of a thumbs up, which looked more like a weird finger wiggle. Some whispered, others giggled, but all watched him like they were waiting for the best entertainment of their lives. Just great. He'd become a spectacle. Grulla finally stopped at a cozy dome-shaped home covered in moss and flowers. She pushed the door open and pulled him inside. The interior was dimly lit, warm, full of handmade crafts that gave off soft pastel glows. Honestly, it was charming. She turned to him, eyes sparkling. You are very brave. Not just for killing beasts, but for choosing me. Rhett rubbed the back of his neck. Well, you seemed kind. She beamed like he'd handed her the crown of the galaxy. Then she took a deep breath, puffed up with pride. And now, she said, you meet the rest of the family package. Rhett braced himself. Cousins? Pets? A very large and angry father? But the door behind him slid open with a soft hiss, and a shadow stepped inside, tall, graceful, radiating heat like a sun-warmed sculpture. He turned slowly, and nearly passed out. Standing there was the most breathtaking alien woman he'd seen in his entire life. Skin glowing like molten gold, eyes shimmering turquoise, hair flowing like strands of liquid metal, a body sculpted by gods with a sense of humor and an eye for curves. Grulla clapped happily. Rhett! Meet my daughter! Lyra! He stared at Grulla, then at Lyra, then back. Daughter? Grulla nodded proudly. You chose me, she said sweetly. So Lyra must assist you in the marriage. Rhett whispered to himself. I should have let the serpent eat me. Rhett stood there like someone had unplugged his brain, staring at the gorgeous alien woman who looked nothing like her mother. Lyra glanced him up and down, slowly, like she was assessing the structural integrity of a building about to collapse. Her expression shifted from annoyance to mild curiosity, then to something infuriatingly amused. So, she said, voice soft but sharp enough to cut metal. This is the human who chose my mother. She folded her arms, her glowing skin shifting colors in a way that had to be illegal. Bold choice. Rhett tried to find his voice. I didn't know there was a daughter involved. Grulla laughed happily behind him. Why wouldn't there be? I told you, whole family package. He turned toward Grulla, lowering his voice. I thought you meant, like, relatives visiting during holidays. Why would I mean that? She asked as if he'd said the dumbest thing in the galaxy. Lyra smirked. Humans are cute when they're confused. He snapped his head toward her. I'm not confused. I'm just trying to understand your customs. Grulla placed a comforting hand on his arm. Is okay. You learn. Daughter will teach. Teach what exactly? He asked, his voice cracking on accident. Both women reacted in ways that immediately made him sweat. Grulla puffed up with pride, her voice cheerful and innocent. Everything. Lyra ran a hand slowly down her own arm, eyes locked on him. Oh yes. Everything. Rhett swallowed hard. Everything meaning? Grulla launched joyfully into explanation. The aliens believed marriage wasn't just a bond between two people but a union that required the support, teaching, and involvement of the wife's household. The partner had to be guided by a member of the family, usually the daughter, to learn their traditions, rituals, mating dances, sleeping arrangements, physical synchronization, and intimate practices. Rhett nearly choked. I'm sorry, back up. Mating dances? Lyra's lips curved into a wicked smile. I'm an excellent dancer. I don't dance, he muttered. You will, Grulla promised happily. Lyra circled him like a predator admiring a new toy. Rhett wasn't sure whether to run or make a peace offering of snacks. Every step she took seemed too graceful, too intentional, too testing. She leaned closer, her shimmering hair brushing his arm, and he felt heat crawl up his neck. So, she murmured, Mother says you killed the Devourer. Yeah, he croaked. With your bare human strength? More like with strategy and explosives. She hummed. Explosives are sexy. Lyra! Grulla scolded lightly. No making husband faint before training. I wasn't, Lyra said, though she absolutely was. Just observing. Grulla waddled deeper into the house, gesturing for them to follow. Rhett hesitated. Lyra leaned forward slightly, whispering, If you're scared, you can hold my hand. I'm not scared. You're sweating. It's hot in here. It's not. He glared, she grinned. They stepped into a larger room filled with glowing fabrics, soft moss benches, and what looked suspiciously like ceremonial pillows arranged in ways that implied activities Rhett wasn't ready to contemplate. Grola clapped excitedly. "This is Preparation Chamber." Rhett winced. That was never a good name. "You learn first ritual," Grola declared. He raised a hand. "Do I get to say no?" Lyra answered with a laugh so soft and musical it almost distracted him from the meaning. "Not really. You accepted the marriage when you chose mother." "I didn't know it was marriage, I thought it was." "Reward wife," Grola supplied helpfully. "Yes. Marriage." Rhett dragged a hand down his face. He was a mercenary, not a romantic hero. He expected credits, food, maybe a medal. But a wife? And a daughter assistant wife? He wasn't built for this level of cosmic absurdity. Grola gestured for Lyra. "Daughter, show human the synchronization posture." Lyra stepped forward with the confidence of someone who had practiced this 1,000 times. She stood mere inches from him, lifting his arms, moving his hands, adjusting his posture like he was a life-sized action figure. The closeness made him dizzy. Her touch was warm and electric. Her expression remained amused, like she was enjoying every second of his discomfort. "You're stiff," she whispered. "I'm being manhandled by glowing aliens, of course I'm stiff." "Relax," she said, sliding her hands along his shoulders. "This is training." "For what exactly?" She leaned close enough that her breath brushed his ear. "Wife duties," Rhett squeaked. Actually squeaked. Lyra laughed so hard her glow brightened. Grola, oblivious to his meltdown, continued explaining the tradition. The daughter must help the husband learn her mother's preferences, their species' physical sensitivities, and the correct gestures of affection. Rhett mentally prayed to every deity he'd ever ignored. Lyra demonstrated the mating dance stance, her body moving in smooth rotations. Rhett tried to copy it. He looked like a malfunctioning scarecrow. Lyra placed a hand on his waist, guiding him. Her touch was firm, intimate, confident. He almost folded. "You'll get better," she teased. "If you survive." "Why wouldn't I survive?" "Training is demanding." Grola nodded. "Very demanding." Rhett wanted to lie down and rethink every decision that led him here. But Lyra pressed closer, smug and gorgeous and terrifyingly enthusiastic. "You chose mother," she whispered. "Which means you chose me too." He exhaled shakily. "I didn't even know you existed." She smirked. "You do now." Grola clapped. "Good work. Tomorrow, we begin advanced rituals." Rhett nearly groaned. Lyra flashed him a playful smile, enjoying every second of his spiraling panic. He whispered to himself, "I just wanted a quiet reward and maybe dinner, not an alien supermodel with a training syllabus." Lyra heard him. "Too late," she said sweetly. "Welcome to the family package." Rhett had barely slept, though sleep, in a moss and glow-lit pod, wasn't exactly restful when the daughter of your chosen wife was practicing her version of intimate rituals outside your door. He lay there, trying to rationalize what was happening. He had killed a giant space beast, been offered any wife in the galaxy, and somehow ended up in a training program that made basic yoga look like amateur hour. He rubbed his temples, wishing for a simple human reward, credits, a medal, maybe a nap in a decent bed. Instead, he had Grola's enthusiastic guidance and Lyra's smoldering supervision waiting for him at breakfast. Or what the aliens called breakfast, which involved glowing fruit, protein gels, and a ritualistic tea that tasted like burnt honey and desperation. Grola, cheerful and unbothered by human sensibilities, clapped her hands as soon as he stepped into the dining pod. "Good morning, husband! Today we begin marriage synchronization." Rhett blinked. "Synchronization? We already did. What, step 1, breathing and awkward touching?" "Oh no," Grola said, eyes twinkling. "Step 1 was just introduction. Today, advanced training." She nodded to Lyra, who leaned against a luminescent wall, arms crossed, smirking like a predator that had spotted its human prey. Rhett's stomach sank. Advanced training? Yes, Grilla said. You must learn to coordinate with your wife and daughter to achieve harmony in all things: meals, chores, sleeping cycles, and intimacy. He choked on his burnt honey tea. I think I'll need a manual for this. There is no manual, Lyra said, stepping closer, eyes glinting. You'll learn by experience. Humans are stubborn but teachable. Rhett tried to back up, but she lightly touched his shoulder, guiding him toward the center of the pod. He had no choice. The villagers had already begun gathering outside, whispering and occasionally peeking through the windows as if the entertainment budget of the entire galaxy depended on this moment. Grilla clapped again. Now! Dance of the twin affections! What? Red nearly dropped the glowing tea. You move, Lyra instructed, placing his hands on her shoulders. I move. Mother moves. Together. Synchronization brings harmony. He tried to step in rhythm. He did not succeed. His arms flailed, his legs tripped, and he almost knocked over a ceremonial lamp. Lyra caught him effortlessly, her eyes sparkling with mischief. Close, but not quite. You must channel your inner human bravado without panicking. Inner human, what now? You know, she purred. That spark of chaos that lets humans survive against impossible odds. Rhett gritted his teeth. I'm surviving against impossible odds right now. Right here. Right, in this pod. Grilla clapped again. Excellent! You show spirit! The next hour was a blur of awkward lifts, missed hand placements, and Lyra's constant commentary. She leaned over to whisper tips that made his ears burn, while Grilla offered encouragement with her warm, round presence. At one point, Rhett accidentally brushed Lyra's hand the wrong way and got a blush so bright on his face he feared it might glow in alien spectrum. You humans are funny, Lyra said softly, though the corners of her mouth betrayed amusement. Funny? I'm about to be sacrificed to your entire family's marital system. Grilla beamed. No, you are honored. Very honored. It is rare for a human to integrate so smoothly. Rhett groaned, wondering if honor always came with this level of embarrassment. By mid-morning, chaos had escalated. Lyra was teasing, guiding, and sometimes pushing him into positions that made his muscles scream. Grilla, oblivious, kept giving motivational speeches, describing proper joint alignment and synchronized breathing in ways that sounded like a mix between yoga instructions and romantic advice. At one point, Lyra pulled him close, holding his hand to demonstrate a gesture of affection. Rhett's face turned red, and he muttered, I don't think humans do this. You humans are awkward, she said with a grin. But that is why it is fun to train you. He tried to step back. She followed. You chose my mother, she whispered. But now you must learn about me too. Part of the package. Rhett inhaled sharply. Package, yes. I'm learning that. Intensely. Grilla, oblivious to the tension, clapped once more. Progress. You show excellent adaptation. Now we practice shared meal preparation, with synchronization of cutting, stirring, and tasting. What? Rhett staggered back. You mean, cooking together? Yes, Lyra said, eyes glinting. Cooking is intimate. And terrifying, Rhett muttered. By the afternoon, Rhett had learned 3 critical things. 1. He was clumsy. 2. Lyra enjoyed his discomfort way too much. And 3. Grilla's maternal pride was unstoppable. Every time he faltered, she smiled, nodded, and said he was doing wonderfully. Every time he faltered around Lyra, she laughed like it was the funniest thing in the universe. Eventually, exhaustion hit. Rhett collapsed onto a moss couch while Grilla fussed over him, smoothing his armor and murmuring about proper hydration. Lyra knelt beside him, her glowing skin almost hypnotic. You survived day 1, she said softly, brushing imaginary dust from his chest. Most humans would have run screaming. I'd still run screaming, Rhett admitted. She laughed, a sound like chimes in a warm breeze. Perhaps tomorrow you'll be braver. Or at least less awkward. He stared at her, realizing that despite all the chaos, teasing, and mortifying rituals, he'd begun to enjoy this strange, absurd, chaotic life. A life where he was a human, yes, but one accepted into the galaxy's weirdest, most seductive family. And somewhere deep in his heart, he knew he wasn't entirely terrified of day 2. He was curious. Very, very curious. By the time the 3rd day arrived, Rhett had developed a rhythm, or at least a semi-functional approximation of one, in the chaos that was his new alien household. The villagers were eager spectators, craning over walls and peering through luminescent windows, whispering bets on which member of the family would dominate his attention first. Rhett had long since stopped trying to anticipate the absurdity. Instead, he focused on surviving each lesson, each ritual, and each smirk from Lyra, who seemed determined to make him both dizzy and flustered simultaneously. Grulla, ever the enthusiastic mother, was in her element. She floated about the pod with a serene glow, offering encouragement, gentle corrections, and unsolicited advice on everything from posture to sleep cycles. She had a way of making every correction sound like an act of unconditional love, which made it almost impossible for Rhett to stay irritated for more than 3 seconds at a time. Meanwhile, Lyra leaned against the wall, arms crossed, radiating a perfect mix of challenge and mischief, occasionally swooping in to demonstrate a more effective method of doing something that Rhett was entirely unprepared for. It all came to a head when Grulla declared the final evaluation. "Husband," she said, eyes sparkling with pride, "now you show the village that you have learned our ways. Step into the Harmony Circle and demonstrate your understanding." Rhett's stomach sank. The Harmony Circle was exactly what it sounded like, a ceremonial space in the village square, open to everyone, where he was expected to showcase all of the marital, domestic, and intimate skills he had been taught, under supervision. This included dances, hand gestures, meal synchronization, and whatever else Lyra had deemed necessary for his comprehensive integration. He stepped into the center of the glowing circle, knees wobbling, as the villagers erupted into applause, cheers, and curious alien sounds that may have been excitement, or mockery, he wasn't sure. Grulla stood behind him, beaming, while Lyra hovered at his side with a smug grin, clearly enjoying every second of his visible panic. "Remember," Lyra whispered, brushing her hand against his arm. "Confidence is key." Rhett swallowed, forcing himself to nod. The first task was the synchronized meal preparation. Ingredients floated magically around the circle as if anticipating his inevitable mistakes. He tried to chop, stir, and present the dish in unison with Lyra and Grulla. It went poorly. He nearly dropped a glowing alien vegetable into the crowd, flailed with the stirring rod, and managed to spill an iridescent sauce across his chest. Lyra laughed softly, her hand steadying his arm, while Grulla clapped enthusiastically. "Excellent effort," she said. "Your mistakes show courage and honesty." "Honesty?" Rhett groaned, dabbing at the sauce. "I look like a disaster." "You look integrated," Lyra corrected, her grin teasing. "And very human." Next came the dances. Rhett tried to match Lyra's fluid movements while keeping up with Grulla's slower, more deliberate rhythm. He stumbled, twisted, and somehow executed a move that made both women pause. The villagers gasped. Rhett froze, expecting reprimand. Instead, Grulla clapped her hands in delight. "Creative adaptation! You honor our traditions and your own species' spirit." Lyra tilted her head, smirking. "I approve. Very creative." Rhett exhaled, realizing that in the alien sense, failing spectacularly was sometimes better than succeeding normally. It was chaotic, ridiculous, and entirely HFY, the human spirit triumphing through persistence, adaptability, and sheer nerve. Finally, the moment of intimate guidance arrived. Rhett froze as Lyra explained the last exercise, demonstrating understanding of personal boundaries, empathy, and physical synchronization, a test of trust and attentiveness. He looked at both women, seeing Grulla's warm, expectant eyes and Lyra's mischievous, sharp gaze. He realized the answer wasn't about perfect execution. It was about honesty, respect, and willingness to engage in this alien culture with sincerity. He took a deep breath, steadied his shaking hands, and followed Lyra's gentle instructions. Movements became slightly more coordinated, gestures slightly more precise. Lyra's grin softened, and Grulla's glow seemed brighter, her hands clapping in quiet pride. The villagers quieted, watching this odd human navigate an impossible situation with humility and audacity. When the final ritual ended, Rhett stood exhausted but upright. Grulla hugged him tightly, whispering praise and affection. Lyra leaned close, her eyes shining with amusement and approval. "You did well," she said softly. "Most humans would have collapsed in confusion. You adapted." Rhett laughed, shaking his head. "I don't know if I survived or just accidentally impressed everyone." "You impressed me," Lyra teased, nudging his shoulder playfully. Grulla wagged a finger at her daughter. "Do not scare him too much. Remember, he is human." The village erupted into cheers, clapping, and alien calls of celebration. Rhett's head spun from exhaustion, embarrassment, and something that might have been pride. He looked at both women, realizing that despite all the chaos, teasing, and awkwardness, he had become part of something extraordinary, a family, a culture, and a bond that transcended species. He straightened his spine, finally smiling with genuine amusement. "Next time someone offers me any wife," he muttered to himself, "I'm asking for a user manual first." Lyra laughed, Grulla hugged him, and the villagers continued celebrating. For Rhett Briggs, human mercenary and accidental alien husband, the galaxy suddenly felt a lot more complicated, and a lot more interesting.